President, please have a. Yeah. May I request President to please present a pledge certificate to Dr. Dave Richards. May I introduce may I request President to introduce Dr. Dave Richards and Rajiv Makhni and give his welcome remarks.
Friends, Dr. Dave Richards is co-founder of the Innovation Lab at MIT, highly acclaimed author, speaker, and consultant on strategic innovation leadership. His 4 decades of experience span commercial, public, and non-profit sectors across many industries and technologies. Dr. Richards' best-selling book, The 7 Sins of Innovation, a strategic model for entrepreneurship, has been hailed for elevating the thinking on this crucial subject to the highest level, according to the Chief Strategy Officer of 3M. He earned his PhD in experimental psychology, neurophysiology, and neuropsychology from the University of Toronto. He is a chartered psychologist with the British Psychological Society, Fellow of the Institute of Directors, Fellow of the Royal Society for the Encouragement of Arts, Manufacturers and Commerce, Board Member of the World Research Center, India Research Center. He later studied artificial intelligence as postdoctoral fellow with MIT. His passion is encouraging, inspiring, enabling, empowering, mentoring, and innovating for people, teams, and enterprises. Rajiv Makhni actually needs no introduction. He is the most visible face on Indian technology and is the technology guru of India. He is the big boss as the NDTV in terms of technology, and I think any of you who's ever turned on a TV in life could not have missed him. So without much ado, let me hand over the proceedings to Rajiv.
So I just arrived this morning, having flown from Washington, D.C., where I was doing some business and seeing grandchildren, to through London, where I didn't have time to go home and see my children. But yeah, these are 2 places, of course, with nothing going on politically. Very boring parts of the world, really. So India now has enjoyed over 70 years of independence. And in the first 50 years of that, transformed itself remarkably. The first part, of course, was about an agricultural revolution because India needed to feed itself. And as a byproduct of the agricultural revolution, textile industry also became a major contributor to your growth. And along the way, other industries have grown: chemicals, cement, steel, petroleum. But in the last 20 years, one of the most exciting parts of your growth story has, of course, been outsourcing. With a talent pool of over 300 million English-speaking people, motivated and educated people, India has become a major player in areas like customer service, call centers, financial and legal services, and of course IT support and software development. On a personal note, in the early 90s, I was investing about 10% of my $50 million annual software development budget here in India, and for that 10%, I was getting more than half of my high-quality software developed. So India helped me make many billions of dollars of shareholder value in successfully commercializing the internet and leading the digital revolution. Now, the most successful, the most significant global technology innovations are referred to as deep tech. Areas like artificial intelligence, blockchain, robotics, quantum computing, big data. And North America continues to lead in these areas of innovation. Americans are the quickest to adopt new technologies across various industries, to commercialize them, and to globalize selling to the rest of the world. And even non-technical businesses in North America are embracing deep tech applications, automation, service improvement, and competitive advantage being the strategic objectives. So in my humble opinion, if India isn't careful, you could miss out on a huge opportunity. I feel you are at a strategic crossroad. On one path lies true greatness, a $5 trillion economy. But on the other path lies stagnation and perhaps even decline from the present $3 trillion economy. And unfortunately, India can become a victim of deep tech. AI and automation will happen, and many low-level jobs in accounting, law, customer service, call centers will be automated. But India has a golden opportunity to be a major player in deep tech, because you have a very precious resource. You have millions of tech-savvy young people and a huge number of the world's most precious resource, the human brain. 1.35 billion human brains. Because deep tech shouldn't be about making people irrelevant or driving people out of employment. Instead, it should be about improving the lives of people, customers, and everyone involved in delivering value to those customers. So we need to rethink the concepts of artificial intelligence, automation. Automation should be about enhancing performance, human performance. AI should be about augmenting human intelligence. It's not about replacing human intelligence with a new life form. In fact, we should even change the acronym AI to mean augmented intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. And as leaders, we should ensure that automation and AI are embraced as ways to improve the lives of customers and employees, not to create mass unemployment. So humans need meaning. And part of that, a key part of that, a central part of that is meaningful work, meaningful ways to contribute value to the world, to other people. So Stephen Hawking, one of the most intelligent people who has lived recently, thought that AI is the biggest existential threat to humanity. But in my view, the biggest threat posed by AI is that of taking away meaning, removing entrepreneurship and innovation from our DNA. So the job of leaders is not to get rid of people through innovation, through automation, through technology, but to engage people, to help them reach their full potential as entrepreneurs and innovators. So I believe the key opportunity for growth to a $5 trillion economy is deep tech. And the key to deep tech success is people, talent, human resources, and how they are engaged in innovation and the creation and delivery of value to customers, where we recognize that we are all customers of each other if we work together, play together, live together. If I put an ad in the Times of India, or the Hindu, or the Hindustan Times, saying that I need 1,000 blockchain engineers, or 1,000 quantum computing engineers, or 1,000 AI architects, what response will I get? Quality or quantity? Which universities and education institutions here in India are teaching a bachelor's of AI, or a master's of blockchain, or a PhD in quantum computing? And do we need more MBAs, as in Masters of Business Administration, or do we need Masters of Business Automation? Which one do we need the most in the future? But technical skills and knowledge through education, training, and development are only one of the essential ingredients for people to be successful contributors in the new age, and for India to be successful on your path to leadership in deep tech. Skills determine what we can do, but other aspects of psychology, the human psyche, the human spirit, other aspects determine what we will do, how well we will do it. Let's start with my belief that human beings are wired to innovate. It's in our DNA. We're born and we grow as children and adults who want to deliver value. That's what DNA is all about. We want to deliver value in all relationships. So that, my friends, is the simplest and purest definition of innovation. Just realizing value in relationships. So to be successful contributors to innovation, we have to start with passion and drive and a desire and a love for making the world a better place. We have a word for that: entrepreneurship. But no one can be a successful entrepreneur or anything else without the right values. Basic things like honesty, loyalty, morality, ethics. And unfortunately, these values are often lacking in many young people in India and around the world. Another psychological requirement to be an effective contributor to innovation, or indeed to anything, is a degree of courage. Without the ability to speak up, to have a voice, to be heard, how can anyone contribute to anything important? Another critically important human factor is empathy, right? Caring for other people, true caring, and honestly seeking win-win or no deal in all relationships, rather than the selfish pursuit of personal gain. This is sometimes called emotional intelligence. And I ask you, what schools are teaching that from an early age? What universities are ensuring that their graduates have developed as much emotional intelligence as possible? Because that's absolutely crucially important to being a good leader, to being effective at anything. So emotional intelligence, along with values, ethics, morality, are absolutely essential human ingredients for success, and they should be taught. But most young people are forgetting these basic values in their mad rush to get rich quick. And older, wiser people, including the education system, need to guide them. If India doesn't seize the opportunity to properly develop young people to meet this new age, deep tech opportunities, others will. Believe me, China, Russia, Eastern Europe, and all kinds of places we haven't even thought of yet, places in South America, maybe Africa. These places will eagerly address this opportunity, especially if you don't. But India has a key lead opportunity. You have a leading edge. You have a head start that you can seize if you're strategically smart enough. So innovation requires investment in people, but also investment of capital to turn ideas into new reality. On a 1 mile, 1.5 kilometer stretch of road in Silicon Valley called Sand Hill Road, thousands of venture capitalists sit on billions of dollars of capital, just waiting for the next innovator, the next entrepreneurial thinker to come along and require some money. So where does an Indian entrepreneur go to find this capital? All the way to Silicon Valley? I don't think so. The annual number of startups isn't what's important, right? The real question is, how many are actually succeeding? How many exist a year after they started, right? What percentage actually survive and create long-term, desirable jobs, wealth through their employees? It's about quality, not quantity, right? The right capital support is needed, but also an ecosystem of support for these startups to help them survive and succeed. And maybe this is something that FICCI could play a very key role in. So to grow from a $3 trillion economy to $5 trillion, India must create many, many brands and products that customers will love. Because innovation is about creating more love, not just money. You need to create capabilities worldwide, make India the center of this deep tech revolution. India will not achieve the objective of growing your economy by 67% just by increasing your population to over 2 billion, or by adding 67% more air pollution. I strongly believe that your goal of $5 trillion economy is achievable through the right strategic leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Not just by growth and expecting that growth will create more love and more value. So to achieve this, my message is that India needs an empowered workforce with the right education, the right technical skills, but also the right life skills, the right personal qualities required to be effective in all relationships with other employees, with customers, with partners. So let me conclude by saying I'm very privileged and grateful to be personally involved in the emergence of deep tech in India. As a board member of the India Research Center, which is starting some great deep tech industries in the coming new year and beyond. So I'm delighted to be able to contribute to this great nation, and it's a real privilege to be here today. So thank you very much. It's an opportunity I would not want to miss. So I look forward to meeting you, to working with you. Come and talk to us at the India Research Center. We would love to engage with you. So thank you very much. And one more little thing. I would be honored if you would connect with me, maybe online. I think if you Google just 2 words, Dave and innovation, I'm pretty sure you'll find me on the first page. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. We'll do that. Dave and innovation, easiest way to get through to you. But taking from some of the words that you spoke right now, I'm going to start off with the first one, and that is, you spoke about deep tech and how India could become a victim of this, and that there are ways for us to come out of it and actually take advantage of it and put that entire brain army of 1.3 billion human brains together, right? If I was to pin you down to one thing that India could do right now to make sure that we tap that quality and not the quantity part of it, and the one thing that we could do that would make us enter disaster zone. So what's the one thing we could do to get going? What's the one thing we could do that could actually pull us back?
Is this working? Yeah. It's an interesting question because it forces one to focus the mind to say one thing. I think the reality is there's more than one thing that needs to be done. But to try and summarize it as one thing, I think the one thing India needs to do to ensure that you can lead in the coming deep tech, new age revolution is encourage your children. Invest in your children, and when I say children, I'm including anyone under 40. Invest in the kids. Right? Give them the skills they need. Give them the support they need. Give them the capital that they need. Give them the encouragement they need. And if there's, the other question was, what's the one way you could
What's the
really
biggest
screw
mistake
up?
we could, while we are on our journey to 5 trillion, as we seem to be, what's the biggest mistake we could make on the way?
I think the biggest mistake you could make is to be complacent. To think that you're on track anyway to grow to 5 trillion. Yes, you'll grow. You know, the population will grow from 1.35 to over 2 billion. And so just doing the math, you should think that if the average GDP stays the same, then you should get to 5 trillion. And you might even do that. But I don't think, I'm sorry, I don't believe it would be possible because there are too many ways that if you don't innovate, if you stand still, you'll be run over. You become irrelevant. Right? No one can afford to be complacent. The world's leading companies can't afford to be complacent. And if you look at history, you can see that all too often the world's leading companies are complacent. It's human nature to be complacent. And as a result, the companies that were the world leading companies 10, 20 years ago aren't around anymore. And we've got a new bunch of complacent companies in charge. And in 10 years, they won't be around anymore. Right? And so hopefully, some of the really leading global players are actually sitting in this room. Right? Because within your brain, are the ideas, the thoughts. Everything starts with a thought. And if those thoughts exist in this room to do interesting things, to create paradigm shifts, to create revolutions in different industries, then that will ensure India's success. And even if they're not in this room, hopefully they're somewhere out there in the young people, the brilliant next generation. So within this room, no doubt, are the leaders who can spot this young talent, who can support it, who can offer investment, who can provide advice, who can encourage, who can be a mentor or a coach or a guide.
So interesting that you say that, and you use the word which I think we get connected with. In fact, Mr. Agarwal also before, when we were all sitting, and he also spoke about this. I think this is the comfort zone for all of us here in India, that we say, India is a country of entrepreneurs. You also use the word. Today, innovation is supposed to be all about entrepreneurs taking on innovation and therefore starting a startup. We are, I think, the second or third most populated country in terms of number of people that start a startup, but we are not even in the top 50 in terms of success in a startup. You think that there's this disconnect where we're supposed to be one of the best entrepreneurs in the world, innovation is in our DNA, as you said it, and yet we don't seem to have that kind of success when you put those two together. Why are we not the startup capital of the world? Yeah. Where are we failing there?
Yeah, well, so I absolutely believe, as I said, that human beings are wired to innovate. However, if you look at the statistics on innovation success rates worldwide, and among even the world's leading companies, innovation success rates are very, very low. They're typically below 10% across all industries. Why? Human nature. Because, again, I don't want to bore you with my book, but my book is essentially about 7 sins or virtues. I also think of 7 chakras, drawing from ancient Ayurvedic philosophy, the 7 chakras of innovation. So the point is, there are 7 aspects of human psychology that tend to undermine efforts to innovate. Human nature wires us to innovate, but human beings, the frailties of human beings, and human psychology is what undermines. So if I pick just one of these chakras, it's about communication. If we don't communicate really, really well within innovation teams, we won't succeed. Another of the chakras is about leadership and empowerment. If we don't lead properly, we won't be successful. And as I say, there are 7. So creating flow requires 100% times 100% times 100%, 7 times. And then you get 100% results. But if you've got 1 times 1 times 1 times 0 times 1 times 1 times, you get 0. And the reality is that it tends to be maybe 0.7 times 0.6 times 0.5 times 0.8, and so on, and you end up with a very low number. Less than 10% innovation success rates. If you look at startups, most startups fail. So great things start because of people and entrepreneurial spirit, but all things fail or fail to reach their full potential because of the way human beings are wired, and when you put a bunch of human beings together trying to work together and make something great happens, there are many things that can go wrong. Many, many things.
Now, interestingly, you spoke about your book, and my next question was all about that. So, besides it being a good, catchy title, which will, of course, catch people and make them buy the book, why 7 sins? Why the word sins of innovation? Because you've also said the 7 chakras. The chakras in Indian philosophy are taken to be actually a positive, while sins wouldn't be. So, what's the 7 sins? Why the 7 sins?
Okay, so look, I'll be honest with you, the title 7 Sins was chosen by the publisher because they thought it would sell more books.
I said that, right? It just makes sense.
But I'll also point out that for every sin there's a virtue. That's like 2 sides of the same coin. Okay, so I'll just quickly run through them, if I may. The first chakra is about purpose, right? Ultimately, it's about fulfillment. So it's fulfilling your purpose. And of course, the requirement for the virtue is really passionate purpose, really loving what you do. The sin is having a pointless purpose or no purpose at all, right? The next chakra is all about vision, right? It's all about clarity and focus, right? And the sin is having no vision or an impaired vision. And there are many ways vision can be impaired, right? Short-sighted, long-sighted, totally blind. Try running a business by flying totally blind for a few years. See how that works out, right? With the virtue, of course, is to have a really crystal clear vision that's underpinned by really good business intelligence, understanding your customers, your competitors, the niche you're in. The next, of course, the next chakra is your voice, right? So it's all about communication and being able to really express the value that you're delivering into the world in a way that gets other people to be passionate about it. And the corresponding sin, of course, is to be a little too, unclear about what your purpose is, or unclear in your communication, or afraid to speak up, that sort of thing. Next, of course, is the heart chakra. And that's all about relationships and being able to develop win-win relationships with all key stakeholders. And so the virtue, of course, is being great at that, being able to really connect with people, to collaborate and so on in a win-win way. The corresponding sin is to be ineffective in those relationships. Next is the power chakra, right? So The virtue is to responsibly empower resources to do what's required, and the sin is to disempower, right? And next is creativity, and of course the virtue is to you can't have too many ideas, so it's to connect with and develop all ideas, and the sin, of course, is to have a poverty of ideas. And finally, the root chakra is about being really grounded, having the right skills, the right entrepreneurial mindset, the right behavior, the right organizational culture that you build around you to drive things forward. And the sin is complacency, to have a complacent culture. And complacency, of course, can come in many flavors. There can be the complacency of great arrogance, thinking, we're great, we'll be great no matter what, right? We can also be complacent because we maybe just don't care. Either way, it's a sin.
All right. You know, one of the most dreaded things that happens for a speaker is to see that red sign which says time's up, which is where we are right now. So what I'm going to do, which is what I'm going to do is very, very quickly, I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions.
Okay.
So restrict yourself to a word or a sentence.
A word or sentence,
right?
okay.
So the first one is that somebody that is not from India and not an Indian, but does understand the Indian economy very well. Do you believe that this 5 trillion number that has been thrown out in the time frame that we're supposed to do it, is it just a number that's been plucked out of thin air and there is almost no chance for us to do it? Or can innovation take us through? Again, in a sentence.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can do it.
Okay, we could do it in 20 years or produce a lot of children to do it, but yes, in the time frame that we have.
What is the time frame?
So depending upon who and which politician you talk to, yeah.
5 years? Okay, look.
Actually about 4.5 left now, but yes, 5 years.
Look, one of the things, again, I said that one of the sins is to have an impaired vision. The corresponding virtue is to have a truly audacious vision that's very clear. Why only 5 years?
After that 5 years, it's 10 trillion.
Okay. Anyway, to go back to my short answer, because time's up, yes.
Yes, okay, great. So that feels good. Now, I'm going to ask you for something. That typical thing that almost any moderator will do is, do you have advice? But I'm going to change this around and ask you a little differently. Again, it's a quick fire question. You said the youth is what we need to nurture. So if I was to ask you to give advice to somebody, a startup, an entrepreneur, somebody about to start with his life right now, what's the best piece of short advice? And what's the kind of BS that is usually given out as advice that you should ask them to ignore? One that they should take to heart, one that they should completely ignore. There's a lot of bad advice out there.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the one most important thing. I'll start with the center. Relate. Connect with other people who can help you take your idea forward. Develop a team and work with others. Because I think a mistake that too many entrepreneurs make is they've got their precious idea, they don't want to tell anyone, somebody might steal it, they don't want to share it, right? Share it. Get it out there, share it. If you've had an idea, 1,000 other people have had the same idea. Go and find them, connect, make it a better idea.
Very unlike what most people in India would do though, right? But yes, of course, great. Different, contrarian view. What's the one piece of complete BS advice that we keep getting, which they should ignore?
There are so many pieces of BS advice around, it's difficult to pick the best one.
Still a favorite of yours?
Favorite BS? If you believe you can do it, you can do it.
You can do it, yes.
Right?
I know, I hear that all the time.
Just believe and it'll happen. Yeah, sure. Right.
Yeah, without all the extra work. Okay, my last question, always to a person not from India, as you asked something about a favorite in India. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do a slightly different one. This is my last question. To every great thing, whether it is innovation, whether it is a movie, whether it is a book, I'm sure with your book also something similar happens. When you have a big campaign for something, you usually have a brand ambassador. Do you believe that we could have a brand ambassador from India for our 5 trillion economy? Because it's usually good to put a face to this thing. If it wasn't the Prime Minister, but somebody else, could you choose somebody in India who could be the face of the 5 trillion economy, somebody who could be the go-to guy to say, you failed, if you don't do it, that is?
Short answer? No.
No brand ambassadors for that?
Oh, well, it's not that having a brand ambassador isn't a good idea. It's that I don't know enough people to say, I'll be your agent if you want. And also, my business partner, Anu Sharma, I think is a brilliant entrepreneur and a great example of the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that we need to inject in India to launch the deep tech revolution. But I think he's going to be too busy launching the India Research Center and all of the great capabilities that are coming out of that. He's going to be too busy doing that to be a brand ambassador. And as I say, I'm sorry, I'm ignorant. I haven't met very many people to help pick a brand ambassador.
Yeah, well,
but I would say not the government.
Stage.
Sorry, but I would say not the government. Okay, governments play an important role, right? Obviously, they have the opportunity to help create an ecosystem for entrepreneurship and innovation, but they aren't the ecosystem. In places like America, Britain, where I do a lot of work, when the government tries to get involved and become the curator for innovation, it doesn't work. Governments don't drive innovation. They can help facilitate, they can help ensure capital is available and things like that, but they are not innovators, even though they should be, right? They should. We need more innovation in government and public sector as well.
2 sessions, one after the other, Sandeep, where the main speaker has said government is not part of innovation. So I think that message should have gone through by now. So thank you very much. Unfortunately, because we are a little off time right now, we're not going to be able to take questions from the audience. But of course, Dave is available. Do reach out to him. Like he said, it could be online, it could be right here. Thank you very much. Great talk and lots to learn. Thank you very much. Give him a big hand, please.
I think as we stand up, I'll just take a quick minute on behalf of all of us. It's great pleasure and honor to listen to you, sir. We will take the challenge, and I'd like to assure you that India will succeed in deep tech, and we look forward to your support. Thank you very much.